This is the first meal that humans ever ate. It's also surprisingly delicious. Back when I was 23 years old, I decided to go to culinary school in France. I enrolled in this program where I would learn about classic French cooking techniques and recipes. But then I had an idea. I told my teachers that instead of learning about French food history over several weeks, what if I tried to learn about 1,000,000 years of food history in just 1 week? They thought it was a crazy idea, but they liked the enthusiasm and agreed to help me out. So I spent 1 week researching and recreating meals from different eras of human history. This was the first one, which represents food from 2.6 million years ago when our hominid ancestors first started working together in groups, hunting and gathering food. This meal consists of cooked meat from a wild boar that I hunted myself and some seasonal vegetables that I foraged. The meat was seasoned with some spices and herbs that were also foraged, and to make the flavors even more intense, I used a technique called Cuisine, which is a super slow cooking method that keeps the meat wall-to-wall medium rare. This meal represents early humans' diet consisting of meat, plants, and fungi. Our ancestors developed the ability to cook food around this time, which allowed them to get more nutrients out of their food and survive in colder climates. Cooking also makes the food taste better. So I think my ancestors would have enjoyed this meal. This is a traditional recipe from the Middle Ages. At this point in history, Europe was in the midst of a warming period and the climate was much warmer than it is today. Because of the warmer climate, there was a boom in agriculture and winemaking. This recipe is a pottage made with wheat berries, root vegetables, and a nice piece of pork belly. Back in the Middle Ages, ingredients were measured by weight rather than volume, so I had to weigh every ingredient to make sure that the recipe turned out right. I also had to use an open fire to cook the pottage, which was a bit of a challenge. Back in the Middle Ages, most people were farmers and they didn't really have a lot of free time, so they would often work while they cooked. That meant that they needed a dish that could cook very slowly over a low heat for a long period of time. Pottages were perfect for this because they consisted of whatever vegetables were in season and could be cooked for hours without burning. These dishes were also very filling and nutritious, which was important because farmers needed a lot of energy to work all day. In fact, this recipe was most likely served to farm workers who were helping a lord cultivate his fields. A lord of the manor would typically have a full-time chef who would cook his meals, while the serfs or peasants did the farming work for very little pay. In the Middle Ages, most people were farmers and they lived very simple lives. Their days started at sunrise and ended at sunset. They worked long hours planting, harvesting, and taking care of livestock. When they weren't working, they'd spend time with their families or in religious activities. Life was hard, but it was also simple. People didn't have many possessions, but they didn't really need anything else to be happy. The average lifespan during the Middle Ages was around 35 years old. Most people died from diseases like the plague or from injuries while working in the fields. This is a traditional Provençal fish stew. It's made with a variety of Mediterranean fish and seafood, as well as lots of fresh vegetables. This type of stew was most likely eaten by the workers who built the pyramids. The ancient Egyptians kept fish as a food source and also for religious ceremonies. They believed that the pharaohs were divine beings, and they would sacrifice fish to the gods to ensure the pharaoh's continued reign. Fish was also a symbol of wealth and power, so it was often served at banquets and festivals. The workers who built the pyramids were paid in fish and other goods. This stew is a traditional Provençal fish stew. It's made with a variety of Mediterranean fish and seafood, as well as lots of fresh vegetables.